Hey, what is up? My name is Brent Pierce and I own a Cyc Wall studio. And today I'm gonna go over the whole thing. I'm gonna go over how I built it, the processes that I use to run the studio, and yeah, maybe I can help out some other studio owners out there. If you're new here, my name is Brent. I own a production and podcast studio near Austin, Texas called Round Rock Studio. Half of the studio is designated for this production studio and the other half is for podcasting. So I talk a lot about that on this channel. Today's video is going to be entirely focused on the production studio and how I run this part of the business. I shoot in this studio myself, but most of the time this studio is rented out to other people. That's what pays the bills, other people using the studio. My production studio is about 40 by 20 feet, half of which is the Cyc Wall, the other half is a completely blacked out studio. That's by design. A lot of people want to shoot on the Cyc Wall, but also a lot of people just want to shoot on the very black side so they can do a lot of contrasty stuff and not have to worry about any ambient light seeping in. They have full control of the light here. Another thing, before I even moved in, I knew that this warehouse was air conditioned. That was very, very, very important. You have to have an air conditioner, especially in Texas. If you're trying to convert a warehouse that doesn't have AC into a studio, I would highly recommend figuring out your air conditioning situation before you try to move in, because that's going to be a huge problem down the road. This had air conditioning built in. It also has drop ceiling built in, which helps with acoustics, also helps with keeping the AC in the room instead of it just flying out the ceiling. It also has a garage door over here. That's another big benefit. So I figured out all this stuff before I even moved in, before I even came and looked at the space. I knew that it checked a lot of those boxes initially. When we first moved in, I had a lot of work to do. There was ugly tile on the ground. This wall was red for some reason. It was just kind of old and needed an update, but the bones were there. So you've got to have that vision coming into it. So when we came in, we ripped up the floors. We did new floors throughout the entire thing. In the production studio back here, I left the floors as concrete. So my Cyc Wall, the floors are just concrete and the walls are just the actual walls that were there. I didn't build any additional floors or walls. I know some people do that. I chose not to. I was like, there's already a floor and a wall there. I'm just going to use the floor and the walls that are already there. So after I moved in, I knew I was going to build a Cyc Wall. I knew that was going to be one of my early steps. So I did a lot of research on how to build a Cyc Wall, and I thought about building it myself, and I'm pretty handy. So I was like, I could figure this out. But the more I dug into it, the more I realized, you know what? I kind of don't want to do this on my own, and I didn't. I hired a team. I hired a team of contractors. They did all the renovations of the whole studio, including the Cyc Wall, and I'm very glad that I hired them to do it, because it took a whole team of contractors like a week and a half to get this done. And if I would have tried to do that myself, it would have been miserable. It would have taken all my time. I wouldn't have been able to work on other parts of the business. So I'm very glad that I hired a team of contractors to build the Cyc Wall. So I think that's a good overview. I'm gonna jump in and zoom in a little bit and talk about all the little different aspects of the studio. Okay, so this is the bread and butter of the Cyc Wall. This is why a Cyc Wall works, because it has a perfect seam from the floor to the wall. You cannot see the edge. That's why a Cyc Wall works, and that's the beauty of it. So the way the contractors built this, behind this wall, there are what you can refer to as like the skeleton of the wall, right? It's not just a board going up to the wall. There's vertical pieces right here. Every couple feet, there's a little thin vertical piece that provides stability. So then you can lay your hardboard on it and you can curve it, and then you can nail that into that skeleton. The corner was the same thing. It was just a little bit trickier because they had to have a lot of different skeleton pieces. And then you simply tape and float and sand and tape and float and sand over and over until it's perfect. One thing that's probably worth noting, when my contractors had finished and they painted everything, they showed me the Cyc Wall, and it wasn't perfect. The seam down here on the floor wasn't perfect. It was good, but it wasn't perfect. And remember, this was the first time they'd ever seen a Cyc Wall. So I had to kind of politely let them know that, like, hey, it needs to be perfect. We need to float it, tape it, and do it again until it is literally perfect. And of course, I didn't do it in a rude way, but I wanted to make sure that they understood my expectation when it came to building this. That's a good lesson probably for leadership as well. Make sure your expectations and your standards are understood by the people doing the work. And of course, they did it again, and it is perfect. perfect. So that's how this cyc wall works. By the way, this is a 3-foot cove, a 3-foot span. I don't know what it would be called, but from the wall to the end of this curve is 3 feet. You could do 2 feet if you have a smaller space, but I have enough space, so I figured let's do a 3-foot. It's gonna make the curve a little bit more gradual and smoother. I get asked quite often, how often do I paint the cyc wall? The wall never really gets painted unless somebody touches it and smears dirt on it or anything like that, but the floors get painted about every month. I don't paint it myself. I pay somebody to paint it. I have had a lot of bad experiences when it comes to painting, so I choose to pay somebody a couple $100 each time. They come in, they're in and out in an hour, they get it done much quicker than I would be able to get it done. So about every month, we're repainting the floor white. My cyc wall, by the way, is 2 walls. There's a wall here and there's a wall back there. A lot of people, if you have enough space, you can do a 3-wall cyc wall. I did not have that luxury because I have a structural pillar over there and a garage door right there. So I just did a 2-wall cyc wall, and honestly, it gets the job done. Would I prefer to have a larger cyc wall? Yeah, sure, why not? But 2 walls gets it done. If all you can afford with your space is 1 wall, then by golly, do 1 wall. There's nothing wrong with that. This curve is pretty sturdy. Right? I have people walk on it sometimes, or they'll do poses on it, and I have kids come in here, and kids always run up it, and they slide down over and over and over. I can always tell when kids have been here at a video shoot, if I come in here the next day, and there's footprints going up the wall. It's part of the job. I get it. It's a little frustrating, but I've never had any holes happen in the wall. So if you build it right, it will stand the test of time. It will stand the test of kids, which is actually probably more important than the test of time here. But yeah, so they built it out of hardboard. Again, it's pretty sturdy. I've never had any issues with it, and it still pretty much looks brand new. Okay, so this is my garage door. Nothing fancy. It's just a manual roll up and roll down garage door. So it's a huge benefit to have a garage door in your studio so you can load in a whole lot easier. One thing that's in this garage door are these little foam inserts. That helps a little bit with the acoustics. I also painted it all white so it would blend in with the cyc wall. Now remember, I have 2 actual cyc wall walls right here, but I wanted this to be white so it blends in a little bit, right? Obviously you're gonna see it, but at least it's not an eyesore. So, next up, let's talk about the lighting. All right, so these are the lights that we're using. We have 5 of these lights. These are the Godox LD150RS. They're RGB, which means they can be any color you want them to be. The one behind me actually is the rectangle version. So that's just the LD150R, but the rest of them are the RS. These are great. I love these lights. They're all controlled from an iPad that I'll get to here in a little bit, but as you can see, they are mounted to super clamps. I love super clamps. I have so many of these things. I use them for everything. They're nice and versatile. There's safety cables on all the lights. That's also very important. But these lights, as you can see, you can swivel them wherever you want. So we've got a few facing the wall. We've got one facing forward for the talent, and we've got one right here, which is kind of acting like a hair light. When the clients come in, they can move them around if they want to. I just always ask that they return them back to the position that they found them in, just to make sure the cyc wall is nice and evenly lit. When my contracting team built out this studio and the cyc wall, they installed this grid. It was very important that we had a grid so we could mount lights to the ceiling. So as you can see, this is connected with all thread. It goes up through the drop ceiling into the actual steel beams of the building. So this thing is pretty sturdy. You definitely don't want to mount it directly to the drop ceiling. This is not going to hold a whole lot of weight. You could maybe get by mounting 1 light or 2, but if you want to do a robust lighting setup, you're definitely going to need a grid. By the way, if you want a grid installed in your studio, a buddy of mine, Rabin, he runs pipe grids. That's what they do professionally. They install grids in studios, so check him out. I had him on a podcast a while back, so check that out. Tell Rabin that I sent you. That'll be fun. So when they were installing the grid, they also installed outlets in the ceiling, okay? Because that was important. I didn't want to have to run cables all the way down the walls and all that stuff. So there's an outlet there, there's an outlet there, and there's an outlet back there. They're also on different breakers, so these all aren't going to pull from the same breaker and trip the breakers every single time. Okay, one other thing worth noting, do you see this tennis ball here? This is so you don't hit your head. One time I was climbing up, just like this actually, I was climbing up a ladder, messing with the lights, and I hit my head on that sharp metal piece. And I thought, holy cow, I'm glad I hit it and not a client. So I immediately put one of these tennis balls on. These tennis balls are great. I have them on the bottom of all my C-stands, so if a client uses it on the Cyc Wall, it doesn't scratch up the floor. Also, tennis balls with holes in them are great to have in your grip kit. These were bought on Amazon. They're white, they come pre-cut, and yeah, so I've got a bunch of them. So that's how this stuff works. Let's talk about the iPad, how to control these lights. So when your clients come to use your studio, it's very important that it is easy for them to use your studio, right? Everything should be self-explanatory. So all the lights are controlled with this iPad that's mounted to the wall. The iPad is also plugged in, so it's always going to be charged. The Godox app is great. A lot of lighting companies have their own app, which I'm a big fan of. So the Godox app is nice. Turn all the lights off like that. You can turn them on individually. You can control them individually. You can control them as a group. And these are RGB, so you can do a lot of fun stuff like that. There's also some effects. RGB cycle, which gives you a nice little gradient because all the lights are on different frequencies right now. You could also do police car. That's trippy. You could do party. You could do a bunch of fun stuff. And then, of course, you can do your classic white with different color temperatures. It's very easy to use. I like that. And if for some reason this app is not already pulled up, if they go to the home screen, this is what the home screen looks like, okay? It's very simple. There's just text, a text widget that says, use the Godox Light app below to control the lights. And then the one app on the screen is the Godox app. So that's how you control the lights. Now, I think that's pretty much it for the Cyc Wall. I'm gonna shift around and now cover the black half of the studio. And this is the black side of the studio. It's a lot less exciting than the white Cyc Wall side of the studio, but it's designed to just be a very dark blank canvas for photographers and videographers to use if they're going for that very contrasty look. The walls are painted matte black. The ceiling is also painted matte black. The floors are black. The outlets are covered in black gaff tape. So you can see it's very dark. We've added over here, we've added paper backdrop rolls to the wall. We have green and a light gray already installed. We've got a few others that they can choose from if they request so, or they can bring their own backdrops as well. Honestly, not a lot of people use those. So it depends on the community that you're building. It depends on who's using your studio. But for whatever reason, our clients typically don't really use those, but they're there if they want to use them. There's black curtains right there. Behind those curtains is the gear that's included with your booking. I'm gonna get to that in a second. Over here, you can see a red curtain. This can be interchanged for any color curtain. This is just what we have up right now for a shoot that we did recently. And I've noticed a lot of photographers are using that, so I've just kind of left it up for them to use. So these red curtains are on a track, and this track goes all the way around. Like that. Right? And adding that curtain track was one of my favorite little small upgrades that I did back here. Also, behind these black curtains is all of our gear. So this is how we hide the gear behind the curtains. And this is just standard gear that we include with our bookings. Nothing excited, but it's just enough to get the client started with their shoot. There's a lot of little things that you need to start your shoot, so if I can provide a lot of those little things to our clients, that will make their experience here better. Let's start from this side. We got 4 C-stands. Again, tennis balls on the bottom of the feet. These C-stands are mounted to the wall with a rack mount. There's also some brooms over here that they can use in their booking. Apple boxes, notice the branded spray paint on the Apple box. That's always a good touch to add your brand on various little things. Also, branded sandbags. I just took these out. I made a stencil out of cardboard. I took them outside and I spray painted them. It was fun. A few stools that they can use for posing, some folding chairs if they have a lot of people here who are just sitting around, some stingers, also known as extension cords, some clamps. These always come in handy. They also always disappear, so buy you a bunch of clamps. There's a step ladder back here as well, and a tall ladder as well. This is all stuff that is kind of required for the shoots, but they were an eyesore, so I wanted to hide them. So that's what initially led me to put that curtain track in the ceiling. Let's talk about that curtain track. I like that curtain track so much, I kind of want to do a whole little section about the curtain track. Shall we? Let's do it. Okay, so this is the curtain track that I had installed all the way, like a big U shape, all the way around the black side of the studio. So the way this works, these are just little pieces of track that you connect to the ceiling with these little clips. I connected these straight to the drop ceiling, the metal pieces, and the way these work, you know, little pieces with wheels go in the track, and then you use these curtain hooks that are included, and you go straight into the curtain, just like that. And it's smooth. It is so easy. Another great thing about these is that you can bend the tracks. So this angle behind me is just one piece of track that angles 90 degrees. It's kind of a smooth angle. So the curtains can just effortlessly turn the corner like that. Pretty great. I have curtains in the front as well in the podcast space. So yeah, curtains are a great addition for any studio. Okay, one more cool little addition to the studio that I did. This is an auto-retracting extension cord up here on the grid. This point that I'm at right now, the closest power is about 15 feet that way or 20 feet that way. So this is kind of a dead spot. And this is great. It's got a 30-foot extension. You can plug lights into it. This will stretch across the entire studio from where we are. And yeah, it's great. You pull it out however long you need it, and it just locks like that. And then when you're done, give it a little tug. Give it a little tug. Give it a little tug. There it is. And it goes back home. Like that. What's crazy about this, it's connected to a super clamp. I bought this, and when it came in, I was like, I'm going to put it on a super clamp. I might have to do some drilling, or I might have to MacGyver my way to get them together. But no, they fit perfectly. The two holes here and the two holes there lined up perfectly. So I just put some bolts through there. It was like it was made to be mounted onto a super clamp. So this thing's great. It's got a lot of swivel, but it is rock solid on the grid. Okay, so now we are in the green room. Nothing special here, but I do think it's important to provide a green room for your clients. This is a place where the models can change clothes, they can do their makeup, they can just hang out in between takes, they can do whatever they want to do. So again, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we got a couch, we got a chair, we've got a TV. A lot of people bring their kids to shoots, so we've got a TV, so we can put up some cartoons. Another fun thing for the kids are custom coloring sheets, right? Look at that, right? I don't know, just a fun little thing. It's all about providing a good experience for your clients. So if you just kind of do a fun little thing like this so their kids can have a good time, they'll remember that, okay? That's what this is all about. It's providing a good client experience. You gotta have a good studio that's functional as well, but first and foremost, your clients have to have a good experience. Okay, we've got a big old mirror here. We've got another mirror here. This is more of a vanity one, so you can sit here and do your makeup. We've got LED lights there. We've got shelves here, so people can just kind of put their clothes there. We also have a rolling clothes rack. This gets used all the time. So I think that's pretty much it as far as showing you the studio. Now I'm going to transition to talking about the business side of things. How do we run the studio? What software, what processes do we have in place to get clients and keep those clients? Obviously, building the studio and the cameras and the lights, that's all fun stuff, but you can't just do that. You also have to have good processes. There's a famous quote, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your processes. Okay, so you've got to have good processes. So let's talk about processes. You ready? Let's do it. Okay, so let's talk about processes. Processes are kind of a not fun part of the business, but they are required. I have somebody help me with all the admin. Her name is Taylor. I did a podcast with her. If you want to check that out, watch it after this video. Finish this video first, but then watch it. We go through a lot of the processes and a lot about what it takes to run a rental studio. So, like I said, our Cyc Wall studio is designed to be rented out to other people. So we had to build strong processes to make that effortless and easy, right? When people book the studio, they don't need to jump through a bunch of hoops to finally get their booking in place and then show up, right? It needs to be very quick and easy so they can book it. I know a lot of times, like if I'm going to book a haircut or something like that, I usually go with the shop that's just easiest to book. Now, obviously they have to be a good barbershop, but if there's a lot of hoops or if I have to send them an email or call them, I'm just not even gonna bother going there, right? I'm gonna go somewhere else where you can click a few buttons and get on their calendar. It's the same with a studio. You've gotta make it very easy. Our bookings come from two places, either Peerspace or our website. So Peerspace, you gotta be on Peerspace. Peerspace is like the Airbnb for venues. If someone's hosting a photo shoot and they need a cool venue, they're gonna go to Peerspace, right? Or they're gonna Google it and they will eventually find themselves on Peerspace, right? Like Taylor said in our podcast,
Peerspace is like the Airbnb. It's the name brand. I think it's the one that most people are familiar with. Like you can mention the name Peerspace to almost any creative and they're gonna know what that is.
Okay, so you have to be on Peerspace. You've got to get really good photos, put them on Peerspace, and you'd be surprised how many people will find you just if you're on Peerspace. My very first booking was on Peerspace, right? I remember I'd built this whole studio and I had this grand vision of how I wanted it to look, and like I was like, I'm gonna rent it out to people, and I had invested tens of thousands of dollars, and I tore a wall down, did the floor, did the cyc wall, I did the whole thing. This whole vision was starting to come together, and then I got a booking from Peerspace, and I was so excited. I was like, okay, all of this work is finally paying off, right? It's kind of working, okay? This whole idea that I had in my head is actually working. And yeah, so Peerspace is great. They do take a cut. So you're gonna have to pay them a little bit of your profit, so keep that in mind whenever you're pricing your services. But yeah, Peerspace is great. If people book directly through our website, we use a booking platform called Acuity. I love Acuity. It makes booking very simple. So when someone goes to our website, they see our calendar, they can see what times are available, they can click it, they can pay it right then and there, they automatically get the email and all that stuff. So Acuity is great. I highly recommend it. If you don't want to use Acuity, that's fine, but just know that you need to use a booking platform. Don't try to do it manually, right? Don't just try to do it over email and then put in a manual calendar event, because that will get ahead of you very quickly. So you might as well nip it in the bud immediately and get a software like Acuity. All of our processes, by the way, are linked to our CRM. CRM is a Customer Relations Manager, I think is what it stands for. We use 17 Hats, and we've used it for years, and Taylor loves it.
Yes, love 17 Hats.
She has automations set up. So if a client is booking on Thursday, for instance, on Wednesday, they automatically get an email that says, hey, here are a list of instructions for your booking tomorrow. And those instructions include how to get in the back door, right? We give them a 4-digit code so they can let themselves in the back door. We also include a little video tutorial showing them how to run the studio, right? How to run the lights, how to lock up, how to take out the trash, all that stuff. So all of that is sent automatically through 17 Hats, and that's great. 17 Hats also sends them a post-booking email asking for a Google review and all that stuff. Google reviews are important, by the way. Ask for Google reviews. Seriously, I love Google reviews. If I'm here and I see a client in person, I will ask them for a Google review. But if I'm not, we'll send them an email, okay? Because Google reviews are so important for small businesses. Our clients rent the studio on an hourly basis, and we charge one flat fee per hour. Okay, we try to keep it simple. We've toyed around with doing different rates, like if they book a lot of hours, it gets cheaper per hour. But no, we just keep it simple, right? I like that philosophy when it comes to business. Keep it simple. Our current price is $130 an hour. 4 years ago when I opened up, it was $95. I started at $95. That's the price that worked for me. And it was a good like introductory price, right? Because no one knew we existed. So it was cheap enough to get people's attention, but it was also high enough to where it brought in a little bit of an income, right? And over the years, we've figured out where we are in the market, right? We're a little bit more of a premium studio compared to other people around us, so we've kind of cranked up that price just a little bit. Pricing is kind of tricky. You're gonna have to figure out what your price is based on your location and based on the community around you and competition and all the things that you offer within your studio. So price is tricky. I would say if you're very first starting, start a little bit lower just to get attention, and then you'll figure out how to crank it up. And then if you crank it up too high, you'll notice real quick and you'll be like, okay, let me bring it down just a little bit. Also on that note though, if you do crank it up and business slows down, don't let that scare you immediately. Okay, I've had that happen to me sometimes where I would crank it up like an extra $10 per hour, and then like no inquiries would come in, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I break my business? Like what happened? But if you just kind of stay strong and be patient, you'll see some inquiries start to come in, and then you'll kind of figure out your price. And so again, right now we are at $130 an hour. In a year from now, hopefully we'll crank it up to $140 or $150. We'll see, but $130 is where we are right now. We do offer discounts to members. We have a membership program here at the studio for our photographers that use the studio a lot, right? They need a lot of hours per month, so we offer some perks to them, one of them being cheaper hourly rate. So we have 3 different tiers that we offer for memberships: 4 hours, 8 hours, and 12 hours. So they pay monthly, and they're getting those hours for a lower rate than just a standard customer. If they don't use those hours, it actually rolls over to the following months. So we do have some members who really don't use the studio very often, and they've been members for like 6 months, and they have a lot of hours to use, and that's perfectly fine. That's one of the perks of being a member, is that they get to keep those hours. And there's a few other perks that we sprinkle in there as well. Also, memberships is a good way to build your community. Your members are your core clientele. They're the people that you really need to invest a lot in. So memberships are great. We've toyed around with different models, and your community is probably going to be a little bit different than mine. So definitely play around with like how you offer memberships and the pricing and what you offer and all that stuff. But yeah, memberships are great. We also do events and workshops here at the studio. I love teaching, that's why I make videos like this, and so workshops is a great way for me to implement teaching within my studio. We teach photography and videography and all the fun stuff that comes along with that. We do have a member named Josh who loves teaching as well. He teaches a lot of the workshops, so I don't have to be the only one teaching. He's also a much better photographer than I am, so I go to those classes as a student, and people love learning from Josh. And so we host these classes where each class is a specific theme, whether it's like sports photography or automotive photography or video editing a story or like shooting B-roll or like whatever, right? So we have a specific theme for these workshops. So again, workshops are fun. We also host photo nights, and these are more of like community events where we invite photographers. We provide models and lighting and the setups. People just show up with their cameras and they're able to add photos to their portfolio, and we're able to get a lot of social media content. We're also able to get people in the door who can see the studio, because a lot of people still don't know we exist and they might live 10 minutes away. And so our job is to get the word out about the studio, and we do that with community events. The software that we use for hosting those is Eventbrite. I highly recommend using Eventbrite. We've done it before where we just manually hosted it on our website, and I don't like that as much as Eventbrite. Eventbrite makes it easy. And some people show up because they saw it on Eventbrite, right? So it also expands your reach a little bit if you use Eventbrite. Again, if you charge for tickets, Eventbrite is going to take a little cut. That's perfectly fine. That's to be expected. But yeah, I like using Eventbrite for stuff like that. So that's it. Thanks for watching. This was a long one, so I'm sure there's something that I missed in the video. If I missed something obvious, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know any processes that you might use. I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm always evolving our processes, so I'm curious to hear what other studio owners are using as well. If you're interested in this podcast set behind me, there's a video that you can click on to watch that tour as well. I love what I do. I love helping out other studio owners as well. I do offer one-on-one mentorship. If you want help opening up your studio, or if you have any very specific questions that you want to ask me, let me know. I'd be happy to help. Thanks for watching. Bye. Oh gosh, that was a long one. Okay.